if they want to go ahead and get some Bitcoin on BlackRock, probably that's the best way to go.
And they have $2 billion worth of Bitcoin backing up that ETF already, and that's within the first month.
And before they even did this, they were purchasing like 5 or 6% of all these mining. So we had a lot of crypto mining companies. So that anyone that was public, BlackRock was buying them. So they have a source to buy Bitcoin as well. So they own a good chunk of the Bitcoin mining sector.
They're buying
as well.
everything, bro.
Yep,
all the assets.
Dude, I've been saying it forever. Whatever BlackRock is buying, you got to buy too. People say, "Oh, don't buy real estate." But what is BlackRock doing? They're buying single-family homes.
Yep.
Oh, don't buy cryptocurrency. What are they doing? They created a fucking ETF for Bitcoin, and they wouldn't have created that ETF if they hadn't already known that it was going to be the future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's the first step towards mass adoption.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because now it's like once you have the banks, or at least the majority of the banks, saying, "Hey, we approve of this. It's okay. You can trade it." Then all of a sudden, the stigma of crypto's scammy, it's whatever, starts going away. And by about 2030, by the end of this decade, we're pretty much going to see. It's kind of like email back in like 1994. People were like, "I don't need an email address. I don't need to use this technology. I got my postal mail. I got fax. What's gonna benefit me from this?" By 1998, every housewife had like 5 different email addresses. Right? It's gonna be the same thing with crypto, because not only with the ETFs, but the central bank digital currencies that they're trying to push. If the governments are successful with that, then essentially you'll have to know how to send and receive a cryptocurrency or something on the blockchain. A digital asset is what they're going to call it. And everybody will have to learn how to do that in order to be able to use a central bank digital currency. So in a way, we have the government and also the banks right now, which have been against Bitcoin for so long, finally starting to be like, okay, we can use this technology, and by using it, even if it's tangential in the form of a central bank digital currency, they're giving approval to it to some extent, right? They have to regulate it now. They have to make it a part of the market. And then they're going towards tokenized securities at the end of the decade as well. You'll be able to trade like Tesla stock through a blockchain, so that way you can trade it 24/7, 365. That's going to change markets. The Japanese stock exchange in Osaka, which is their second main exchange, is already testing all of that technology out.
So this whole Monday through Friday, not 8 to 5, is going to be gone soon.
Yeah.
It's going to be possible to trade outside of that. And so they're probably not going to want to, circumvent the CME and all of this, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the NASDAQ and all these things. So they're still going to have like their hardcore way of trading, but then they're going to say, hey, if you want to do a derivative, which is our tokenized asset, right? It's not the main asset. It may be like a representation of an IOU of the main asset. You can go trade it on chain 24/7. And then they'll have to match the price on opening probably to what's going on in the crypto side.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And Larry Fink from BlackRock said that specifically.
Larry
Like
Fink.
that's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, that's the guy running BlackRock.
Yeah. I mean, you guys know.
I wonder where he's
They
from.
know what that sound effect means, huh?
I wonder where he's from. I had a question actually, real quick.
Yeah.
So we're moving into like a cashless, I want to say, society where like most people aren't going to use cash anymore, right? And we see it in video games online. You spend with money, you get tokens in the game, and you buy items, right? But when it comes to actually like video games, what's the future you think with Bitcoin as well?
Oh, it's going to be some version of like Ready Player One, something like that. I mean, it's not going to be all the way like
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. It's not going to be like all the way like everyone's living in a trailer park home, but it's going to be a version of like you work in this game or you work in a real life job. You make your money in stable coins. And then from there, you just purchase stuff online and it just shows up to your door. So it's going to be like, so you could be in a video game and because it's not the games now, but it's going to be games in the future where like it's going to be open, you can trade them, and then you could use those game coins or skins after killing somebody, you won their loot, you could sell that off and then use that to go buy like new gear or go buy clothes or go buy water or pay your rent and stuff. You just that's because all this stuff's worth value, because if people want it, then it has value. Right,
Wow.
It's just like when people were playing World of Warcraft, there was Chinese gold miners. Like you were not allowed to sell your WoW gold, but people were still buying it for what I think it was like $12 for like 10,000 gold, or like I forgot how much it was back in the day, but that's what's in the legal market. With a legal market, it then becomes like a free flowing kind of currency that can really appreciate in value. Yeah,
That's pretty dope.
So, and here's the thing, because I remember, being like in high school and hearing about this thing, like in a way, Bitcoin, there's this cryptocurrency, and everyone was like, what the hell is this shit? And it's been something that hasn't been, you know, people kind of looked at. It was like on the fringes of society, right? Like no one took it seriously. It was, you know, this is BS. I remember one guy famously bought like Domino's Pizza with Bitcoin, which I think today, how much is that Bitcoin worth that he spent?
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Maybe $1 billion.
He spent like 100 Bitcoin or some shit like that to buy Domino's Pizza.
10,000.
Or Papa John's Pizza. It was 10,000 Bitcoin.
10,000 Bitcoin.
To buy a Papa John's Pizza back in like 2008, 2009 or whatever. And now it's worth like, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. So like, what we're seeing is cryptocurrency is slowly becoming more and more and more legit. It's becoming more and more mainstream, which obviously for the hardcore people are like, no, fuck this shit is going to go into normie land. But on the other side, the more it becomes legit, the more it goes up in value and the more, you know, your investment that you put in prior, you know, pays off.
Right.
And the fact that it's an ETF is huge because, for the boomers out there that like to invest in VOO or, in the Vanguard stock, they like to invest in like ETFs, right? VEO, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is like the total market exchange or the S&P 500. Because people like to invest in like index funds, right? Safe, nice ETF
it's
index
safe,
funds.
that's why.
Right? But now that Bitcoin has its own ETF through BlackRock, and we know that BlackRock, you know, a lot of the times, as much as we criticize them and say, hey, it's the elites and evil, whatever.
Yeah.
They pretty much, whatever they're investing in is what you should invest in, right? And they're investing in single-family homes, but they're not telling anyone that. They're silently buying single-family homes under other people. Now we know that they created this ETF and a couple other companies have. I would say at this point, you can't talk shit about Bitcoin no more. It's here to stay. Now that they made it an ETF.
If you can't beat them, join them, honestly.
Yeah.
At this point.
For all the people out that say, you know, cryptocurrency is a scam, blah, blah, blah. And I used to think that too. I remember when I had my first consult with Charlie, like, 2-3 years ago now at this point.
End of 2019.
I was skeptical too. I was like, what the fuck is this shit, Bitcoin? This makes no sense. And he was like, look, man, and I bought it. It was around $3,000 at the time. I'm glad I bought it. Like, I think I bought like a quarter of a coin or half a coin at that point. And the only thing I'm like pissed off now is that I wish I bought more.
I remember I saw your portfolio. I said, yo, hold on a second here. You made all this money? Count me into it, bro.
But I remember at the time, right, I was like, hey, go in with what you're willing to lose, that kind of thing and stuff. But there was also some other people around us in that space at the time. They were like humming and hawing. You actually like bit the bullet and did it.
Yeah, of course.
Most of those people who were humming and hawing about a year later, they were buying way higher.
Way higher.
Yeah.
And so, and then kind of to your point here about mainstream adoption is we have these phases, right? The first phase of crypto back in the early days was first they ignore you.
Yeah.
Then the next stage is then they laugh at you. Oh, it's just like a meme coin. It's a penny stock, whatever. Then they fight you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stage we're in now, where the governments and banks are like, okay, we got to resist this a little bit. The next stage after that is then you win. So I think by once we get into the 2030s, crypto's so mainstream, just like the tech boom, that everybody's using it, and people are like, okay, this is a thing now.
Yeah.
But they're going to call it digital assets. Crypto still will have some sort of tainted name related to it.
Of course. But the fact that like I really want the audience to know, like, the fact that BlackRock made an ETF on it tells you it's here to stay.
Yep.
They typically don't miss when it comes to what they're going to purchase from an investment perspective. They're buying single family homes and they just turn Bitcoin into an ETF. I mean, those are the signs right there that these are asset classes you want to invest in.
Now we're not telling people just to go out and buy the ETF, but we're telling people to go on Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini or Crypto.com and go buy Bitcoin and put it in your custody.
Yeah, actually own the asset.
Yeah.
Because we like to be. We always say like we're the red pill of finance. We want you to be awakened, right? Have control of your money, have your Bitcoin in your wallet, because if an exchange goes down, it's gone. If something happens, like what happened with Robinhood, right? You're winning on fucking on a what's called GameStop, right? And then you're about to make a shit ton of money, and then they freeze it on your ass. You still have it, but they just robbed you out of all that money you could have made. But when the Bitcoin's in your custody, you can sell it at any time.
Yeah,
and that's the big difference, is they can't shut it down, and that's what they hate about it. But they're also addicted to the money. They know where it's going. Like, they don't like seeing all these millennials and all these fucking Zoomers and some of these extras make all this money. They're like, we got to get a piece of it. So they've been slowly, accumulating. I mean, what's it called? Fidelity's been mining Bitcoin since 2014.
They'll never say that though.
They'll never say that and stuff, but it came out years later. I think it came out in 2018 that they'd been in the market since 2014.
Yep.
They've been slowly accumulating. Out of the big players, the only one that's kind of out right now is Vanguard. Vanguard's actually looking kind of dumb right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not
Goldman Sachs has been involved with cryptocurrency for a very long time too. They just won't admit it. Like,
they're bullish on Ethereum. There was one report they let out about a year and a half, 2 years ago, saying like, hey, we kind of like Ethereum and stuff, but it was like middle of the bear market. Nobody's paying attention. It's all dead. And they haven't said anything since. Like, they've been very quiet.
It's interesting because, right, and I've noticed this. I don't know if you guys like. I want you guys to really pay attention to the mainstream news, which is why you shouldn't watch the mainstream news, but you should watch it just to see the bullshit that they go. Some representative will go on CNBC or some other bullshit like the MNSB, whatever, NBC, whatever the fuck, right? CNN, whatever. They'll go in there and they'll say, "Oh, the housing market's gonna crash.
Yeah.
Oh, cryptocurrency is a scam. It's bullshit. Blah blah blah." And there'll be a representative of a big bank like a Goldman Sachs, a BlackRock, or whatever. The representative will go over there and tell you guys that this asset class is gonna crash. But silently, if you actually look at what they're doing, you see they're buying single-family homes. They're buying cryptocurrency. They're mining it in some instances. But the representative will go on these big, financial news talk shows and say negative things about it. Why? Because they don't want you to buy it. They want to buy it. And then when it goes up, they're like, "Oh, we got all of it, motherfuckers." And that's what they've been doing. Like, this wasn't like, you don't just make an ETF out of nowhere. They've been planning this probably for years.
The great thing is like Jamie Dimon's the poster child for, basically saying crypto sucks.
Yeah.
And every time he does is like the worst time, good time in the market to buy. And every time he's like, maybe I'll lay off of it for now. Top of the market. And so like, and in the background, right, JP Morgan's like doing all these reports basically saying, hey, this is what we think about crypto and we're involved in it with an asset class. And they're even actually closely tied to Coinbase in the background as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the traditional financial advice, what do they always tell you? Oh, invest in the S&P 500. That's what that's what everybody says. If you go ahead and you go with a financial advisor, they're always going to tell you, invest in S&P 500. Yeah, that's true. Traditionally,
New all-time highs.
It's not going to go in. It's always going to appreciate. Typically, you're not going to lose money. It's very safe. It's one of the safest things with all the boomers invest in. But are you going to make a bunch of money? Probably not, right? But they're not going to tell you, oh yeah, go buy real estate, single family homes, or go buy Bitcoin. They're going to tell you, no, fuck that shit. Like, no, it's terrible. The market's going to crash. Woo.
Even creators, they push certain funds because they get paid or sponsors from it.
Yep.
But Bitcoin, I mean, pretty much like, oh, don't buy that, man. It's risky. You don't know what you're doing. But guess what? You're going to be Charlie here to help you get the right coins.
Yeah. So we got some. You guys had anything before I read the chats, or I think we got some questions already coming in.
Let's start answering.
All right, so we'll go ahead and. We got a bunch of questions that came in, man. Shout out to all you guys.
We got Slat here.
Yeah,
Spidey.
Slat goes,